There's a strange feeling that comes up when watching Gravity Falls. Even though the show is colorful, funny, and filled with strange creatures and mysteries, there are moments where it feels lonely. Not sad in an obvious way, not dramatic, just quiet. It's the kind of loneliness that doesn't announce itself. The kind you only notice once everything slows down. You might feel it in the background of a scene, in the space between jokes, in the moments where nothing important seems to be happening. That feeling isn't accidental. Gravity Falls understands that loneliness isn't always about being alone. Sometimes it's about space, about silence, about time passing quietly in the background. And that's why the loneliness in this show feels so real. One of the strongest reasons Gravity Falls feels lonely is how much empty space it allows. Wide forest shots stretch far beyond the characters. Long roads disappear into the distance. Quiet streets sit empty, with no sense of urgency or movement. The show doesn't rush to fill every moment with action. That emptiness creates emotional distance. When environments feel crowded and busy, loneliness fades into the background. But when places feel wide, still, and quiet, they invite introspection. Gravity Falls often places small figures inside large spaces. The town never feels cramped. The forest never feels contained. Instead, the world feels bigger than the people inside it. That contrast subtly reminds us how small individuals can feel inside quiet places. And that feeling, being surrounded by space, rather than people, is at the core of loneliness. Another reason Gravity Falls feels lonely is how comfortable it is with silence. Many shows avoid silence. They fill every gap with dialogue, music, or movement. Gravity Falls doesn't. It allows scenes to breathe. Moments pass without explanation. Sounds fade instead of building. Silence creates awareness. It gives viewers time to think rather than react. And when there's space to think, emotions surface naturally. Loneliness often exists in silence. Not because something is wrong, but because nothing is demanding attention. Gravity Falls understands that silence isn't empty. It's reflective. By letting silence linger, the show allows the viewer to sit inside moments instead of rushing past them. That stillness gives the loneliness room to exist. Gravity Falls also feels lonely because it feels temporary. The town is small, remote, and surrounded by forest. There's a constant sense that it exists apart from the rest of the world. It doesn't feel like a place people arrive at permanently. It feels like a place you pass through. That sense of impermanence matters. When you know you won't stay somewhere forever, connections feel fragile. Moments feel fleeting. Gravity Falls carries that feeling quietly. Even when the town feels lively, there's an underlying sense that this isn't where life truly settles. That transience creates emotional distance. The kind of distance that makes everything feel slightly out of reach. And that awareness feeds into the show's loneliness. Another reason Gravity Falls feels lonely is because of its focus on in-between moments. The show doesn't only highlight big mysteries or climactic events. It spends time on waiting, on walking, on sitting with nothing important to do. These moments often feel the loneliest in real life. Not because they're painful, but because they're unoccupied. Gravity Falls understands that loneliness doesn't usually appear during major events. It appears during pauses, during transitions, during moments where time seems to stretch. By giving these moments space, the show mirrors how loneliness actually feels: subtle, quiet, and ordinary. Gravity Falls takes place over a single summer, and that fact quietly shapes the emotional tone of the entire show. Everything feels temporary. Moments feel fragile. Time always feels like it's slipping forward. Even happy scenes carry a quiet weight, because when you know something won't last, it becomes more precious and more distant at the same time. Loneliness often comes from that awareness, not from being alone, but from realizing that moments are passing whether we're ready or not. Gravity Falls doesn't state this directly. It lets the feeling exist beneath the surface. That subtle awareness gives the show its reflective, slightly lonely atmosphere. What makes Gravity Falls' loneliness unique is that it isn't overwhelming. It isn't hopeless. It isn't despair. It's gentle. The show doesn't frame loneliness as something to escape immediately. Instead, it treats it as part of growing up, part of change, part of time moving forward. That approach makes the loneliness feel honest. The show trusts viewers to sit with quiet emotions, without forcing resolution, and that trust is rare. Gravity Falls feels lonely sometimes because it understands something. most stories don't rush to acknowledge. Loneliness isn't always loud. It doesn't always arrive as sadness or pain or loss. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's gentle. Sometimes it's just the feeling that a moment matters because it won't last. The show captures that feeling without ever needing to explain it outright. It lives in the empty spaces, in the long pauses, in the moments where nothing important seems to be happening. And yet, something is. Gravity Falls lets the world feel still long enough for you to notice it. And when you notice it, you start to feel the weight of time passing. Not in a dramatic way, but in the way summers end, in the way places change, in the way moments slip by before you realize they meant something. That's where the loneliness comes from. Not from being alone, but from knowing that everything you're experiencing is temporary. That awareness doesn't make the show feel empty. It makes it feel honest. Gravity Falls doesn't try to fill every quiet moment with noise. It doesn't rush to distract you from stillness. It trusts you to sit with it. And that trust is rare. To feel something without immediately needing to fix it. But that's also why the loneliness in this show feels so familiar. It mirrors the kind of loneliness we experience as we grow up. The kind that comes from change, from distance, from realizing that certain versions of ourselves and certain moments in our lives don't come back. Not because they were taken away, but because they were always meant to pass. Gravity Falls understands that growing up doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, in between moments, in the spaces where nothing seems to be happening at all. And that's why the loneliness lingers long after the episodes end. Not because the show was sad, but because it allowed itself to be still. It allowed moments to exist without rushing them toward meaning. And in doing so, it left space for us to find our own. If you enjoy videos like this, ones that slow things down, sit with quiet emotions, and explore why certain stories stay with us long after we've moved on, that's what this channel is about. I'll be making more videos like this, looking at animation, storytelling, and the feelings we don't always have words for, but recognize when we feel them. So if that sounds like something you'd like to keep exploring, consider subscribing. And thanks for spending this time here. Sometimes, just sitting with a quiet feeling, without trying to explain it, is enough.